Hey guys, it's Nina and today I'm going to be doing a recent wrap-up of sorts, basically just going through the books that I've read in the past 3-ish months. I'm not sure when I did my last wrap-up, but I'm going to go through all the books that I've read since then, which is 4. I'm sorry that I haven't been uploading the most frequently / regularly. School is a thing. That's been stressful and crazy. But that's all the housekeeping I have for today, and let's get into the books that I've read. So the first book that I read a while ago that I haven't talked about yet is Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo, and this is the second book in the Six of Crows duology, second and final book, and this book was phenomenal. I give it a 5 out of 5 stars. Highly recommend if you haven't read this duology yet. It's low-key one of my favorite series ever now. I don't even know what to say with this book. I had kind of low expectations going in because one of my favorite things about the first book was the flashbacks, and I assumed that since this was the second book we wouldn't have those flashbacks since we already knew the characters and where they were coming from, but this book was still chocked full of flashbacks. We got to know the characters even more than we already did before, and even though we didn't have the heist factor of the first book, the main crew of 6 people was still doing these amazing adventures and it was still riveting and amazing. And to be honest, I'm not sure which one I liked better, the first one or this one, but they're both solid 5 out of 5 stars, and I already really want to reread this because it was just so amazing. You guys need to read this series. The next book that I picked up was one of our Biblio squad picks, and that is Gemena, the second book in the Lumine series, and this was, again, amazing. I gave this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. This is one of those books that I feel like I've talked about on this channel before because it was one of our Biblio squad picks, and so we had a whole live show on it and we've discussed it. I will leave that down below, so I feel like I've talked about it on here, but I haven't. But this was amazing. This series is huge on BookTube, so I'm sure you guys have all heard of it. It was really similar and yet not similar at all to the first one. And again, similar to Crooked Kingdom, I really don't know which one I liked more because I liked different aspects from each of them. Similar to the first one, the characters were great, the plot was riveting, the layout was again amazing, and they even brought in new layout elements because there were some illustrations by Marie Lu, and then some of the chat rooms were different than they were in the first book. I think my only critique of it is that it was a little too similar to the first one, and it's kind of that balance where you want it to be similar because you want the things that you like about the first one to continue to remain in the second one in a series, but there were just some of the plot twists or the character tropes that were very similar to the first one, and that kind of bugged me a little bit, but at the end of the day it didn't subtract that much from my reading experience and I still really enjoyed it. The next book that I finished was also a Biblio squad pick, and that is Heartless by Marissa Meyer, and this is a retelling of the Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland and kind of her background / origin story. And this story I enjoyed. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, I believe, 3.54, I don't know, we'll go with 4 out of 5 stars. I did really enjoy it. I sped through this book. I read it mainly the day of our live show because I was really behind. Links to our live show down below, by the way. But this book was great because I really liked seeing the main character's character development and her change from this really great sweet girl into the Queen of Hearts. And then I especially loved Jest, who was the love interest in this. He was amazing and kind of made this book for me because I loved him. And it was also really interesting reading a book about Wonderland and set in Wonderland because I am only somewhat familiar with Alice in Wonderland. I've seen the animated movie, but I haven't read the books or seen the Tim Burton movies. So it was interesting to go into this with a general idea about the world, but then I had to rely a lot on Marissa Meyer's world building, which I think was done pretty well. And overall this was just a generally good read, but it wasn't something I couldn't put down. So again, I give this a 4-ish out of 5 stars. And the most recent book that I finished last week, and that is Maggies Chase and the Sword of Summer, which is the first Maggies Chase book. And I really liked this book. I have been putting off reading this for the longest time. I don't know why, because Rick Riordan is my favorite author of all time, but I finally read this, and by read I actually listened to it on audiobook, which was a really good experience because I never really do that, but it was really fun. It made me feel really productive because in the morning when I'm having breakfast I usually listen to music, but instead I started listening to an audiobook, and that just made me feel really productive, and this is a book that I would not have listened to or read at all if I hadn't been listening to it as an audiobook, so that was really great. But as for the book itself, I loved this book. I really liked how Magnus was similar to Percy as a main character, but at the same time he was his own distinct lead and very different from him. He's darker than Percy, he is a jokester, but he makes different kinds of jokes, and overall he just was like raised differently and has very different life experiences from Percy that like affect the way he acts. And I'm just getting way into the psychology, but he was like a really great main character. And then the side characters in this book were fantastic. I absolutely fell in love with them. They were also incredibly diverse, which was fantastic to see. And then the plot was great. It was really cool to learn about this Norse mythology where like I know the bare bones of it, like I know Thor and Loki, and that's about it. But overall this was just a really great book. I give it a 5 out of 5 stars, and I cannot wait to pick up the second one because it just came out and I can finally catch up on this series. So that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know down below if you've read any of these books or what you've been reading in recent times when I've been completely aloof on here. And that is it for today. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it and subscribe, and I will see you guys later with another video. Bye!